but I think I related a lot with boys a lot. And it's weird because you'd find me in primary school, I'd have arm wrestling competitions with boys, working in the mornings, studying at night, and then going to training at night. Luckily, JVW, the trainings were in the evenings. From what I've experienced sitting in the boardroom, sometimes you're the only woman.
Oh, well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our first episode. I'm your host, Mr. Halakashi. Welcome to the Halakasha podcast, the factories of stories. We hope to bring you more and more to come on our second episode and other episodes to come in the love of women's football. And without wasting any time, we're so honored with our first episode to have a lady of this magnitude. She's a strategist, I'll say. She's an advocate for women's soccer. And then I'll say she's also a content creator as well. And when we talk about women's football, I cannot, without any doubt, forget to mention the name of Indira
Albuquerque.
Alberqueque.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn a bit of, is it Portuguese?
Yeah, it's Portuguese.
Okay, so it's
Albuquerque.
Okay. Indira, nice to have you in the show. Welcome.
Thank you so
Finally,
much.
I've been telling you I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And
I think
that's
it's
finally
good.
happening now.
No, it's good. I think we need to have more conversation around women's football to educate. So thank you for this. And thank you for the introduction.
Yeah.
A bit illustrious, but yeah.
Yeah, to sit in this seat, I'm quite nervous, but to have you, thank you so much for joining us. Without any waste of time, I just want you to greet our viewers at home, and then the first question will be like, you tell us about yourself. How did you fall in love with this beautiful game? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the works. Let's just start with the basics.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so in a nutshell, you can hear by the name, I am different.
Okay.
So I was born in Angola. I've lived here most of my life. I came here when I was about 3 years old. And I think just being very different and not speaking the language and everything, I was a very shy child, very reserved. And I think sports initially was my outlet. It was my way of communicating with people. So in my primary school years, there was no women's football. So I did athletics, netball, all of that. Only when I got to high school, I was a very late bloomer, is when I was introduced in the sports of football at school level. I used to watch at home with my brothers and my dad, my brother and my dad. And, I had very strict parents and they didn't really like the fact that I played football. So I hid it from them for a really long time. I used to go to school, after school, play football, run to the change room, change, and then go home in school uniform. Yeah. So it was like that until university, when I reached university, and that's when I'd obviously joined JVW, which was my first club, my only club actually, in if we can say like a semi-professional level. And the first time my parents ever watched me play football was in 2016 when we made it to the Cecil finals and we were on TV. And I just picked up the phone, called my sister, and I said, "Listen, put this channel at this time and make sure mom and dad are in front of the TV." And that's the first time they ever saw me play football. So that's how my football love started. And also being involved with JVW, I could see the issues in women's football, the lack of resources, whether human resources or even financial resources. And so I was playing and I was helping with administrating the club. I started with the administration of the JVW Schools League, which is a high school girls league in...
Yeah, it's one of the biggest in the country, ne?
100%. And it was actually the biggest in the continent at that time as well, because FIFA had written a story about it. So then I dabbled into being project manager of the actual club. And at that time, I had suffered an injury, so it made sense. I was more focused on the club. So that's where everything just started coming together with football.
Yeah, just to take you back, I've got an awesome story. You said you started playing soccer in high school, right? Okay, so did you play for a girls' soccer team or it's... More of training with guys.
No, so luckily, when I started in high school, obviously we played in the high school league at that time.
Okay.
It was JVW High School League,
that's
which
nice.
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
And that's when Janine scouted me to play for her club. So I transitioned into a women's club.
Okay, just a quick question. Like, how did it feel with your peers at school? That since you're a female athlete or footballer, how did the perception now turn and say no? Now she's becoming like a man. She's starting to play football. How did they take it, or your friends at school?
I don't know. I think growing up I was very how do I even explain? Obviously I had friends that were girls, but I think I related a lot with boys a
Okay.
lot. And it's weird because you'd find me in primary school, I'd have arm wrestling competitions with boys, and
Is it?
I was always that girl. It was strange. So I think in high school, I don't think people were taking it seriously that the girls were playing football. I mean, we had our peers, our boys teams come and support us. So there was always a level of support in high school level, which was really, really great. I don't think I felt the stigma when I was playing in high school. I think that environment was just very conducive for supporting, and no matter what, if you're a girl or a boy, whatever the case is, you're playing sport, we're there to support. And I think, and I was at Edenvale High School, so at the time it was a really good system in terms of, the support. I think if not, they rallied us a lot more for being women and playing football.
Okay, just to cut you, did your parents support you in your journey in high school? Like, were they involved?
No, they didn't know at all.
Because I know that's the case. Like,
No, they
just
didn't know.
to alert you, like I had one of the players when I was still playing soccer. I never reached professional football, by the way. I just went to UJ and decided to do other things. But we had a lady, I think she's in US now, by the name of Wendy Dogwana, and I think she's watching as well. She'll be watching this episode. She used to train, like I'm from core rural area in KZN, Ladysmith, but we used to train with her, and we didn't understand the entire cycle of you know what you go through. Like, this is the time of the month. Like, it was something that's a stigma. It was something taboo, but she was so skillful in a way that some of the players were like, yo, I'm getting benched because of her. She used to play with us as boys.
Yeah.
And where I'm getting it is, parents sometimes they don't understand this. We used to come and visit her, and parents would be shocked. Why boys are visiting my girl now? But to put flesh in what I'm saying is, it's quite difficult for parents sometimes to understand the
No,
passion.
100%.
So your parents, how did they feel about you playing? Because
it
they regard
wasn't-
this as a rough sport.
Yeah,
to
no,
say.
it's a boy sport. So
Yeah.
especially African parents, there's a big stigma. It's still in Africa that, women aren't supposed to be playing such a sport.
Yeah.
And obviously that stigma comes with a lot of other things, the sexuality and whatnot. But my parents, I think they were excited when they saw me on TV, but when that excitement then ended, it was a thing of, why are you playing that sport? And that whole stigma starts again. So I think everybody has their own story. My story is very unique. I feel like I started very late. I didn't play
late
with
bloomer.
boys. Yeah, late bloomer, late. I didn't play with boys, so I didn't get that, feeling of, being in the streets and staying until the lights gone in the streets and then parents shouting. I never experienced that, but I have peers and people that I've played with who have experienced that and have experienced stigma from the next door neighbor. Some players, their parents have been really supportive from day one. Other parents have not. And I think that grows a bigger desire for women to want to succeed in the sport, because all you want to do is just prove yourself
that's for
right
sure. Yeah.
and prove them wrong, like you were saying, the person that you grew up with, that's the story of the typical female footballer in this country. It's growing up with boys. It's reaching a stage where, puberty happens.
Yeah.
Our body develops very differently, and then that starts creating the detachment between that girl in that community with the boys that they're playing with, and then finding a team that now they have to adapt to, which is an all-girls team. So I think everyone's story is different. I wish, and I know it's a weird wish, but I wish my story was like that. I wish I could go through playing with boys and, really,
Is
really
it?
experience. Yeah, I really do.
Why you wanted to play with boys?
Because, I mean, if you look at how women footballers are developed, you can see a player that has played with boys and you
Yeah,
can
that's
see a
true.
player that's been developed playing with girls. The physicality is different, the skill, and we know this, and I lost the word, but you know that boys have been playing football for a lot longer than girls.
Yeah.
So they will develop, the type of style of play and
Yeah.
skill set
Even
from
the
boys.
physique as well.
100%, you can see
Yeah.
it. And I think I was just a sporty person, so I could play a lot of sports, and that's how I got into play football. I mean, I'd like to believe I was a good enough player. But if you see me play and if you see let's say, Mpumi Nyandeni, who I
Yeah.
played with, you can see that our styles of play is very different. Her flair is very different. She has a flair, and that
Yeah.
you adapt from playing with boys.
Yeah. Okay. So take us through the Sasol League. Like how's the league? Like how did you feel playing in the since you said you've discovered that now you're joining the JVW team and within the Sasol League. Like how was the setup there? How did you feel playing for the Sasol League? How was it? How was the intensity within the Sasol League?
Look, I think playing for JVW, one thing Janine really wanted to make sure is have a professional-like setup and have high-intensity sessions, be as professional as possible, even with the limited resources that they have. So I think, and that this is me speaking on JVW because I haven't really been in any other club in that level
Yeah.
to see how it's like. But being in that environment, I think was really great. People were so supportive. There is a common goal to want to advance women's football in the country. And you can see by the academy where it is now with all the teams that it
that's
has. Playing in the Sasol League, I think it really opened my eyes to the difficulties that women face. And it can be things as little as not having a changing room. We have to change outside. The changing rooms are
it?
locked. Yeah. You go to fields and, it's like a field that's just been left just because it has grass, it's good to go. Not well maintained. And even if you do find a change room, there's no running water. And, with women, it's hard, with not having water. And we also had, younger girls in the team. So how do you try and, create a viable dream for them to want to pursue the sport if this is what we're going through? So it was tough. And I think it really grew the desire in me to try and do what I can do to advance the sport in my capacity. Wherever I find myself in, I will always be an advocate for women's football. And yeah, I think the Sasol League has been great nonetheless.
Yeah,
they
that's
have
true.
been a really big investor in women's football for over a decade. And, before the Hollywood Super League, Sasol League was the league.
Yeah, it was the
If
league,
you
yes.
weren't in the Sasol League, like what were you doing? So, and at that time there was stiff competition. I mean, Sundowns I know have been a reigning team for
Yeah.
the longest of times, but back then we had the TUTs, we had the Crucius, we had the Palace Super Falcons. Like it was a proper league where super competitive. So yeah, the Sasol League, obviously there's its ups and downs, but in the most part, I think what it's done in advancing women's football has been great.
Okay, lovely. Like from Sasol League, you played a bit on Hollywood Super League. How was it? How was the setup now playing as now? I'll say you are a semi-pro now, or you're a professional player now playing for JVW.
Yeah, I think we like to say semi-pro, but the reality is we're not
You are
even
pro.
close to. No, we're not even close to semi-pro.
Is it?
Yeah, I think how the league is structured is calling it a semi-professional league is because we play teams interprovincial or in the different provinces.
Yeah.
But I think the change from Sasol to Hollywood Bets was obviously the traveling.
Yeah.
Now you're traveling a lot more. Players who have families, who have work, it became a bit of a struggle because obviously you're not being paid to play. Yes, the club, and this is what JVW also tried to do really well, was to create some sort of financial stipend to help, the players travel or whatever the case is. Obviously, it's not enough to leave your job, but I think it was a big jump. But I think it has exposed a lot more players in the country, through broadcast as well, has been really
Yeah.
good. I didn't play for as long as I wanted to because obviously I was making a move for my career, my professional career, in corporate. But the time that I was playing it was good. I mean, it's not always good to linger in the negatives, but
Yeah.
what it's done holistically for women's football is exposed more players, and yeah, it's created a new step from the Cecil League.
Okay, so like one is interested, like if I want to play football, like I'm just looking for a normal player outside watching us. Tell me, like how is it juggling work with what are the difficulties of juggling work with training as well
Yeah, it's difficult.
in our league? Yeah.
Yeah. So when I started playing, when I was still in the Cecil League for JVW, I was juggling work, school, and football.
Wow.
So I was studying through UNISA, so it was correspondence, working in the mornings, studying
All
at
right.
night, and then going to training at night. Luckily, JVW, the trainings were in the evenings, so I could juggle all of that. Then moving on to Hollywood Bets, because I was also still working for JVW and playing at the same time, it made it easy for me. But seeing other people, I know that there were players in the team that work really strenuous jobs, picking up heavy things on their
Yeah.
feet the whole day. I had a teammate at the time that worked at the airport who was walking every day and up and down, and then had to come to training at night and perform. So physically, it's draining. I think it takes a lot of grit and a lot of strength to go to from an 8 to 5 or a 9 to 4 to training in the evening, and then have to perform on the weekends. And then the weekends came, especially with Hollywood Bets, where you're traveling at night, bus,
Yeah.
coming back at like 2 o'clock in the morning on the Monday morning, and then having to go to work. So it's hectic, and this comes to the financial difficulties. Without sponsors, and the financial injection into the clubs, it makes it very difficult to travel comfortably for the players.
Okay, like I'm one of the advocates as well that I think our football, like, it deserves to be fully pro like our counterparts. But what's your take on that? I think I believe that players should just do one thing at a time, because as we're saying now, some players had to pick up heavy stuff. So where do you think are we close enough to reach the stage?
To a professional league.
Yeah, to a professional league.
Gosh, it's a tricky question because and I don't want to be controversial, but there's a lot going on at the moment in
Yeah.
women's football that is not steering in that direction. But I think that we need, the different stakeholders need to come to the party and really understand what does it take to have a professional league. We need more sponsors. We need even foreign corporate investment.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yes, maybe there's not enough investment in the country. In economically right now in the country, we're not doing too great.
Yeah.
Especially
unstable.
with the
Yeah.
recent budget speech and all of that. So obviously there are restrictions. So what's stopping us from going internationally to see what kind of corporate
that's
investment we
true.
can find? And the reality is maybe those corporate investments can be the ones, really putting in the money that we need for women's football to be called professional. Because until we have players who are still working and playing, it's not a professional league.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's if you have players who are part timing, sometimes you have to prioritize. Sometimes you have deadlines, and you have to submit. Some players, I've spoken to some of the players. Some are students and have to do
It's
assignments
hectic.
and stuff. It's hectic.
It's crazy.
And it sort of creates an imbalance in
Yeah.
in them trying to reach an international level. Because if you look at the other leagues, when you compare us with the other world, and they're doing quite amazing
No, we're
things.
miles apart.
They're fully pro, and they're playing.
100%.
And which leads me to the next question. And I'm tempted to ask you this. If I believe, like, if I had the powers, I will make you one of the CAF presidents. I'm serious. if you had to become a CAF president, what are the things we need to look at within the COSAFA
goodness.
region? Let's start within the
Sure.
COSAFA region and the continent at
Now
large.
you put me in the spot. I
Yeah.
hope Patrice never watches this.
No, I'm hoping he's watching.
I think development. Development number one. We
What's
need a
wrong with our
foundation.
development?
I think it's not done well enough. It's not streamlined so that there is a clear pathway. And I'm
Okay.
speaking more women's football.
Yeah.
There's not a clear pathway for development to progress into the bigger stages. There's still a big gap. And I say this with all respect. I mean, if we have to look at where the under 20 teams is, the national under 20 team in Banyana,
Yeah.
there's no doubt there are players who are rising and getting better, and we're starting to see them, shine through. But the reality is there's still a big step for them to reach Banyana level.
I was actually shocked on our under 17. They had open trials. I was like, don't you have a pool of players?
But that's the thing, and that's another thing. Why
I
are we
was so shocked.
having trials?
Why are we having
on
trials
a
for a
national
national team?
Yeah, exactly.
I was even shocked. I'm
Exactly
like,
that.
My wife was like, no, can I go? Nah, you're overage now. You can't go. Like, I was even shocked.
Yes, and
For a national team to have an open trial, like, I was
100%.
I looked at the Engine League. I was like, okay, maybe there are players there, but why are they
And
not
that's-
setting
that's
up a
the
proper
problem.
league for
There's no
development?
proper database, and that
in terms
speaks
of
to-
development.
Yes, and that speaks to development. What is the pathway? Are we streamlining the process so that if there is a tournament coming up and it's an opportunity for us to see younger players, is there a database we can go back to and say,
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z, all these players from this region, can we please have them come? So there's, and let me not say just South Africa, in Africa in general.
Yeah, it's an African-
It's an African problem.
Yeah.
There are a few African countries who are now slowly progressing into investing in that. We're seeing the likes of Egypt, Morocco. I mean, just off CAF FC Mazar, that team was the youngest team in the competition.
Yeah.
Why? Because they are now prioritizing a lot of the younger players and developments to be the future stars of the country. So, and also you're seeing with Zambia. Zambia now have
Zambia's doing
prioritized.
great. Yeah.
They've done really well in prioritizing development. We saw that now with the under 17 competition. They've done well. They're doing well in COSAFA. And it's like a conveyor belt that is continuously going to develop those young players, and there's a cycle to get to national team or the highest level, and from there they're going abroad. So there's a system, and the system is working. So why isn't that system working for majority of the African countries that have women's football, and even the countries that are starting women's football? Why aren't we prioritizing the developments in those countries? And then obviously to help the teams in the higher leagues to be professional. What constitutes a professional team?
Yeah, that's I always ask myself that question as well. And what constitutes for a league to become professional? Because what we see now, it's fully professional. Players are showing dedication. The league is producing, like, the stats are there. Like, I don't know why corporate is not investing. Like, the stats are there. Like, I don't wanna lie.
It's about the rights holders. What are the rights holders doing to show that this league is producing what it's producing to create the great Banyana players of this world? It's about behind the scenes, and because I've been involved in corporates, it's so important on paper and in documentation for you to be able to show that, so that a corporate can understand in investment terms or return on investment terms that, okay, this makes sense for me to invest in. At the end of the day, we need someone who is advocating well enough in the boardrooms to say, this is what's happening and this is the type of return you can get if you get invested in this type of project.
Yeah, that's why I believe, like, if I had the powers, I'll make you the CAF. Within the CAF exec, like, we need more people like you. Like, let me just create some controversy as well. Like, there's been an outcry. We want Kaizer Chiefs, we want Orlando Pirates to join the Hollywood. Do you think is it viable enough to have those two teams
I always
within
say,
the league?
If there is a owner of a team who does not want women's football, don't force them.
Okay.
Don't force them. at the end of the day, yes, we can say those are the biggest teams in the
Yeah.
country, and whatever the investment is or returns that they get. But at the end of the day, we also don't know the struggles that they're going through within their own male football fraternity.
Yeah.
We think that owning a PSL team is easy. You get a lot of money. If you look at some of these expenses that you see, like
Yeah.
it's a lot
Traveling
of money
cost. Yeah.
to own a PSL team, and especially of that magnitude. So I feel like if a team really wants to, they will do it. Like the Sundowns, like at the time the Bloem Celtic that also had the women's side. So for me, it's don't force it. If they don't want to, we'll be good.
Okay, great. We've heard it from the oncoming president. According to our podcast, she's the one. And I just want you to have your I'm lost of words now. Have your say on how's the states now of football. Like, okay, for example, now how are we competing globally as Africa as large?
If we take it back to the last World Cup, yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like
In
yes,
comparison with the
we
last
are
World Cup, yes.
100%, we are competing globally, but with what's happening right now is going to dent the progression that women's football has made.
Yeah.
So if we want to continue in that trajectory into competing with the global stage, we have to ensure that the custodians of women's football are safeguarding the progression of the leagues, the national teams, making sure that players are getting from a national team level, there are camps and whatever the case is to continue the development, and that the teams in the country are playing their leagues. So, with what's happening right now, it's time will tell. We'll see in AFCON if how Banyana are going to perform. But right now, with what's happening, this is hindering the progression of Banyana potentially
true.
lifting up the cup.
So I'm tempted to ask as well, and in terms of endorsement, do players get endorsement in our league? Like, do you believe that players should be getting more endorsement players, like out the good players out there in our league?
100%. Again, it comes back to, are we selling the product well enough
Okay.
for people to understand and to grasp that there is a market? It's a market that is untouched right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I know someone has already mentioned it before, but it's the same thing that I was thinking. I mean, if you look at Lipstick Lady, when she left AFCON with that viral video with her
Yeah.
lipstick, why weren't the makeup brands jumping
very
onto
true.
it? So
Yeah.
I think it's a stigma and a perception that needs to be fixed in the corporate space, because again, there could be a stigma, but also we need women in those positions who are making those decisions to be able to say, we want to get involved with women's football at this capacity. Because from what I've experienced sitting in the boardroom, sometimes you're the only woman
So
in the boardroom
do you
speaking.
get
about.
intimidated when you're sitting with a male-dominated boardroom?
In the beginning I did,
Okay.
but now I don't anymore.
It's a walk in the park.
No, if at the end of the day you need to say what you need to say, and if they take it, if they don't, it's up to them. But as long as you've said your part and you've tried to do what you need to do, I've always said to myself, I will do the best as I can in my capacity.
Okay, lovely. I've seen a video whereby you were playing a game of pronunciation. I've seen it. I've seen it somewhere. We'll do it later, but it's fine. On our next episode, I hope I'll just to play that game. And, I learned a lot from you. I didn't know that little, it has to be spelled as little. So, with that have been said, thank you so much, Indira, for your time. Do not forget to subscribe and thank you so much. I think this has to be an extended conversation, but thank you so much for honoring our invite. And I believe that you will elevate to what God wants you to elevate, because I can see that you're the right kind of a person that women's football needs in our country. And thank you so much for your time. And I hope to see you climbing that calf ladder, I'll vote for you. I'll start locally with our local football. And thank you so much for your time, and may God bless you. And yeah, we're looking forward to the season, though it's postponed, but we hope within the board they're gonna decide and make the right senses. And as you're saying, this is a collective marketing brand. And thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for this. We need to speak more.
No, we'll
So
do it. We'll do it
thank
more
you for
often.
the invitation. Thank
So
you,
I
appreciate
know
it.
corporates will be watching. So I need those corporate companies to advertise, and I just want to push women's football, and I just want to start in the boardroom and then move to the pitch, so that they can people understand what does it take for a women's league to operate. And thank you so much for your time. And then as well, do not forget to subscribe to Halakasha podcast. And thank you so much. We hashtag Hey Game Matters. We're signing out, Mr. Halakasha. Injalo. Love and peace.